So welcome to this Kapha-Pacifying yoga class. We need to pacify Kapha when the body begins to feel sluggish, when the mind gets cloudy, when we uh, find ourselves to get a little stubborn, stuck on certain ideas. Then it's a wonderful time to pause whatever it is that we're doing and give ourselves the antidote to that excess. Kappa is earth element, the structure, the stability, and water element, the fluidity, the capacity to yield. Those two together provide tremendous nourishment, a sense of ground. But when in excess, that's when we get into those little issues that I just mentioned. So, because the body is not very eager to start moving, right? It's feeling heavy, it's feeling sluggish, then it's a wonderful thing to do to begin with a restorative practice that is stimulating, invigorating to the body. So as you see here, Denise's been resting in this for quite some time now, where we have the block, one of the blocks, not at the highest level, but the second to highest level, right at the level of the tips of the shoulders. So this way you are encouraging that back body, the upper torso, to lift and expand the chest as a result, as a rebound from that. And then we have the other block at the highest level, right at the base of the head. And I'm going to invite you guys to just go ahead and position yourselves in this way and observe the effect that it has, especially if you are feeling a little sluggish. So this is a posture that doesn't require much effort, right? Like you still get to lie down, but you are beginning to bring some prana, some life force into the area of the chest, what we call Vyana Vayu, the prana that travels from the center out to the periphery. And in this way, begin to get some circulation going and perhaps the incentive, the drive to move the body, which is really what Kapha does need to shed the excess, which is where we're going to go next. So once you've had a chance to at least experiment with this, test it out. Maybe the block will want to be at a lower level on both ends for you, or maybe even this higher block could be at the same level as the other, provided this is not putting any strain on the neck. So for him here, we still have the forehead pretty much aligned with the ground. So this is still a pretty good level. How does this feel in comparison to the other?
A little more challenging, but it's okay.
Okay, so the kapha does need a little more challenge, yeah, but it needs to be brought into that greater challenge very gradually, very kindly. Otherwise, there will be resistance. So we will come back to this at the end of practice, and then I'm going to encourage you to stay there for a good 20 minutes or so. But for now, we're going to get the body moving. Okay, so go ahead and tuck the chin in. You can roll to either side or take a moment with the forearms there as you did. Perfect. And then come around so that you are kneeling in child's pose. And we can use one of these blocks for the forehead. Actually, place the block underneath your forehead. There. Good. So we have the block placed in such a way that the forehead is moving down. Okay, so still cultivating that sense of ground that the kapha very much feels familiar with. And then go ahead and stretch your arms long so that you're in the fingertips. Good. And so you begin to expand a little bit through the rib cage. And in this way, bring some more prana through in those intercostal muscles. A little bit more breath begins to move through. And he's bringing the block a bit lower so that there is more release on the neck. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Great, great. All right, so then from here, we're going to come into hands and knees. And from hands and knees, I want you to come all the way up onto just your knees. So you're reaching the arms up. And you're kneeling on your knees. Very good. I'm going to get these blocks out of the way for him, and you do that for yourself. And then just step the left leg forward. Good. So you're in this lunging position. Now you begin to root through those legs. So this earth that's already in you, go ahead and cultivate it and use it to your advantage so that you can begin to bring some heat to the center of the body and as you lift up. And now from here, take your right hand out to the block. So the block is just outside of the mat. And then begin to rotate. So the twists, the rotations, they get that fire that's in the center of the body to begin to ignite. And that's really useful for kapha in excess. So if once the neck is nice and long, once the shoulders are nice and even and the back body is full, perhaps you challenge yourself to straightening out that back leg. Nice. And if you need a little bit more room, you go ahead and take that. So now the idea here is that the bottom side, for him is the right side of the body, is rooting down as well as that front leg so that the torso has the freedom to lengthen forward and rotate out. Keep breathing. That will always help you. And now go ahead and come back to center, bringing that back knee down, bringing that front arm down. And now let's go ahead and straighten both legs so that you're going into Parsvottanasana. Using the blocks, whatever height that you need here with the blocks, maybe a little bit higher for you. You have really good flexibility and you can use the knuckles as you are. So the idea on this one is that this hip that's in front we want to encourage it to move back because its tendency is to shorten here. So encourage it to move back. And then from this, what I'm going to invite you to do is bend and straighten that front leg. So now we're beginning to open up a little bit through the hamstrings. But more importantly, we are activating the area of the pelvic floor, from the femur bone onto the pelvis. Each time you straighten that leg, you're activating that area. So make sure that you're not just bending the knee just from the area of the knee, but that you're actually engaging that big bone in the body onto the hip. Do that a few more times. And notice that he's just being very mindful here. He's not just snapping the knee back and forth. He's really bringing it into the hip. And when you feel that you've had enough of this, then I'm going to invite you to step back into downward facing dog and notice the feeling on that side that you just opened up. Perhaps you feel that that left side is a little bit more open in the area of the hamstring, the back of the leg, as well as the area of the waistline since you did that twist. Is that the case for you? So whether or not the legs are straight, the interesting thing here is that you are decompressing through the spine. So you notice that his legs are slightly bent at this time, and that's because we're just getting started, right? The body has a little bit more stiffness, but that's, you just allow that to be what it is. All right, good. So we're going to come back to that kneeling position. We're going to do the other side now. So as you're ready, go ahead and reach the arms all the way up. Nice. So we already have the blocks out to the side. And this time you're going to take the right leg forward. Beautiful. So opening up through the side body. Activating the intercostals for a little bit more fuller breath, because that's always going to have an invigorating effect. Good. And then from here, take that left hand down to the block. or the ground, and then begin to rotate. Nice. So really using the earth, the contact of the legs into the earth to create that support, that stability that the earth element provides in order to open and revolve. So the neck here I see is beautifully free. The shoulders are open. And so with that stability of the base, you begin to rotate. And if you wish to straighten that back leg, please do so. Using the bottom side, the bottom of the part of the body that's in contact with the earth as a support system to revolve and open. Shoulders aligned, lengthening through the spine in the in-breath, and then exhale, revolve a little further, being aware of the back body, maintaining that fullness. Good. And then as you're ready, come on back to neutral, bringing that knee back down. Good. Take a moment here. And now let's go into Parsvakonasana as you did on the other side. Good. And of course, both sides are different. This one may require a little more of the adjustment of that front, that right hip moving back. So you want to make sure that there's no compression there through the right side of the torso. You want it as long as the left side, if at all possible, even though you're in this very asymmetrical base. And then here we start again, bending and straightening that front leg. But not just from the knee, but all the way up into the hip. So you bend, release, good. And then as you straighten, bring that femur bone right into that hip socket. Beautiful. A few more times like this. And straightening. Good. Make sure that the back of the neck is free. Make sure that the shoulders are free. So however high the prop needs to go to assist you with that, do it. Good. And when you feel that you've done just as much as you did on the other side, then go ahead and come back into downward facing dog and see if both sides feel more even. If that right side has opened up as well as you did on the left. How's it for you, Denny? Huh?
Lovely.
Lovely. It is lovely, isn't it? Oh, good. So bend the knees as much as you need to decompress the spine. But keep a fullness here through the area of the kidneys. Wonderful. Okay, so then from here, come on down onto your knees like you're moving into child's pose, but we're not going to do that just now. We're only going to use this pause to take the blocks closer into the mat. So the block is at each block is on either edge of your mat. And then go ahead and place your hands on the block. So we're going to move from plank to chaturanga to upward facing dog on our knees, okay? And perhaps maybe if it's accessible to get off of the knees. All right, so you may need to move the knees a little further back so that you are in a plank position even further perhaps. Good. And now go ahead and come on forward, so bending the elbows a little, so coming into your chaturanga, but keep the shoulders full, keep the neck nice and full. Beautiful. And then from here, lengthen out so the sternum comes forward. And maybe if there's freedom in the lumbar, you can go ahead and straighten the legs. Excellent. Dropping down through the shoulders. Beautiful. Filling up through the kidneys. Lower belly lengthening up to the sternum, lengthening up beyond the crown of the head. So nice. Now go ahead and come on back into child's pose. Take a moment because that was a lot of effort, but again, so wonderful for a kapha. Just having to make sure that when you move in a situation like this, that you are really mindful of keeping your shoulders where they belong, that they don't fold forward like so. The shoulders are locked in. You only go down as low as as that is still allowed. And then from there, that you open the chest through the arms, but lifting up from the base of the spine. And then if it's available, then you go into upward facing dog where the legs are straight. Shall we give it one more go on that? All right, so come back into that kneeling plank position. Good. Drawing the elbows in close to you, keeping the shoulders full, keeping the back of the neck full. Elbows in. You don't need to go too low here. You just, the key is to keep control, and then open up into your back bend. Lifting up through the sternum, shoulders back. Maybe the knees come off the ground if it's there for you. Okay, so this time we were a little further back. So go ahead and come on back down. We're going to do it one more time. This time we're going to come closer forward so you're not dumping on the shoulder. So it's all about those small little adjustments so that the key is to experience greater freedom even though you're engaging the body more, but never being compromised of your freedom, especially when it comes to alignment of the joints. So let's make sure that you keep your freedom every step of the way. That's much better. And then lengthen forward, bending through the elbows, and maybe bringing the legs. Nice. And then a well-deserved child's pose after that. Good work. Good work. So there is more movement, more activity, more demand in those muscles that are in your body when you are doing a Kapha-Pacifying class, but never at the expense of your joints, right? So always keeping that in check. Okay, so now we're going to come back to focusing on the legs once more. We're going to take the blocks out to the front of the mat like so. How are you doing?
Great.
Good. All right, so let's go ahead and come into downward facing dog. And if you'd rather, you could just kneel and then step one knee forward. So let's take the left leg forward since that's the one we started before. Good. Awesome. So now here, as we did with Parsvakonasana, let's encourage that left hip to move back so that you have enough balance to extend the arms back behind you. Good. Lovely. Good. And if it feels a little wobbly, focus more on sending that left hip back and see if you find that balance. The shoulders are full, the back of the head is full, and then bring the arms out to the side. If you feel like a bird today, go ahead and fly a little. That is always wonderful for a kapha. And then arms forward, lovely. And then go ahead and bring that back down into dog pose. Beautiful. And take a pause. And if dog pose doesn't feel like a resting pose, then come into child's pose instead. And now let's do the same thing on the other side. The right leg goes back, steps in. Beautiful. Reach the arms all the way back. Once that right hip has moved back, so you have the balance. Good. Maybe this time the palms face one another. Just notice how that feels on the shoulders. So you're looking for freedom in the shoulders, engagement in the legs, freedom through the torso. Beautiful. Arms come out to the side and then reach them forward. Beautiful. Excellent. And as you're ready, step back, either child's pose or downward facing dog, your preference. We're going to do one more of these. In fact, we're going to add a little something more to this. So we give the body what it needs to be free to start again. All right, so then once more, the left leg steps forward. Good, and you reach the arms back once that hip is aligned. And you reach the arms out to the side. Sorry about that. And forward. And now go ahead and reach for those blocks out in front of you. And move in the direction of warrior 3. But you're going to use the blocks. You're going to use the hands to be balancing on that front leg. And you notice he brought the blocks a little bit lower. Good. So then the idea here, of course, with warrior 3 is that if you didn't have that the hands there, you would be balanced. So how do you balance yourself? Drawing the big toe down more so that that right outer hip can come down. Good. And in here, like we did with Parsvakonasana, why don't you bend that left knee a few times, and back and straighten it again, right into the hip socket. Bend and straighten. Notice how that feels. Good. Couple more. While keeping that right hip turning down, while keeping the toe turning down. And maybe if it's there for you, reach that right arm forward. Lovely. Lovely. And then as you're ready, bring it back down. I'm sorry, left arm forward. There you go. Now that's a lot more balanced, right? So the opposite arm from your leg, extend that out. Good. And step back, maybe child's pose. And just let that whole thing go. And as you're ready, we'll do the second side one last time. Beautiful. And again, once that right hip has moved back, reach the arms back. And then reach the arms out to the side and forward. Beautiful. And then as you're ready, let's move in the direction of Warrior 3. So moving very mindfully so that you could come up into balance if you wanted to. So there's a lot of focus here now on the toes pointing down and not out. That's wonderful. That leg is so straight and strong. So really activate those muscles around the level of the knee. And now, like we did on the other side, bend and straighten a few times. Good. And straighten. Nice. And as you straighten, really sending that femur bone right into the hip. Beautiful. And again. Good, good. And now if you are willing, this will be much easier because you're going to take the right arm straight ahead. Nice. Engaging through the thigh. You got it. Breathe. Find that center, even if it feels wobbly on the outside. And then as you're ready, come back into child's pose this time. Good. And you can, as you come into this balasana, you feel free to use that block underneath the head. I have the block right here in case you want it. Feel free to also take the arms all the way back, but if you want to keep the arms extended, then that's wonderful because there's still some activity in the body and we're still doing a little bit more activity, so it's good to keep the body open, free, as it needs. So then from here, as you're ready, we're going to attempt another plank type of upward facing dog. We're going to experiment with the assistance of the blocks once more. Since they're here, why not put them to use? I'm going to encourage you to bring the blocks like this, long ways, just in maybe a hand in front of your knees. And then I'm going to ask you to come into plank pose. Yeah, even them out really well. Plank pose. Excellent. So then from here, you move back a little bit. So you want the blocks to be at your thighs. Right at the thighs. And then come on down through chaturanga. Make sure that the neck stays nice and free. And then open up into upward facing dog. And you don't need to straighten the arms all the way, but just keeping the shoulders free, keeping the back of the neck free, lifting up through the sternum. Isn't that a lovely support on the back of the legs? So it gives you a chance to lengthen more. It brings the earth up to you. No compression here on the low back? Good. If there were compression, then you'd come down lower. Beautiful. So I'm going to invite you now to come into downward facing dog. Take a rest there. Good. And just for fun, you want to give it one more go on this?
Yes.
Okay, one more go, and that's for you an option as well. So coming forward into plank, bending the elbows by making sure that the back of the neck is still long, no collapsing here, and then slide the torso forward slightly for your up dog. And bending through the elbows, shoulders are low. Beautiful. Nice. Oh, I love the feeling of of opening up into upward dog with this greater height underneath my thighs. It feels very grounding, but yet opportunity to expand. So, all right, so coming back now to child's pose, remove the blocks out of the way. So now this time we're going to take the block one to about where your head would be, like where the temple would be. And then the other block is going to come out to the side for you to do a final little twist, just to release any tightness from the exertion of the spine. So come onto your hands and knees. Good. And then weave that right arm underneath the left until you find that you can rest the temple, the right side of the temple, onto the block. And then take that other arm, prop it up on top of the block. Could be the lower level, just like he did. Excellent. And use that. And you could come maybe into fingertips so you have a little bit more height here. And then breathe into those ribs. So breathe into your left ribs, fill them up, and then as you exhale and twist, allow the right ribs, the bottom ribs, to lower down more. So breathe in, lift up through the left, lift up through the left, the back of the lung on the left side, and then as you exhale, dip down through the right. So finding space here through the waistline as well, but just rinsing out any excess tightness from all the activity. How does that feel? You want to move it slightly in any way to gain more freedom?
If I move the block out from under the head,
Uh-huh.
I can go deeper.
So maybe you don't want to use the block under the head. How's that? Better?
Mm-hmm.
More freedom. There you go. Always the option. All right, so then coming back to hands and knees. Good. So maybe we start with the block or not at all. No need. Okay, so for you, choose the block under the head or not. And if the block is under the head, is right at the area of the temple. And then weave that arm through. Beautiful. And then do you want the block here to go a little bit higher? No need. And then this other block, just in case you want a little bit more height. So again, breathing into those side ribs, the back of the lungs. And then as you exhale, allow the bottom to drop and twist. And then maybe you feel like you can slide that straight arm in a little bit more. A few breaths like that. Lengthening the spine on the in-breath. And then as you exhale, revolve. Lengthening the spine and revolving. And then from here, one more child's pose. And we'll come back to where we first started with one block, lifting up the thoracic spine, and the other block supporting the back of the head so that you can have this invigorating sense of opening the body while still resting, which is probably where a kapha in excess would want to start. So make sure that the block is even and in the right place so that you really do feel that the sternum is up. And then before the other block goes up, tuck your chin in so that there's no strain on your neck. Do you want the block at that more challenging level or the highest? All the way up? Okay, so all the way up. for him, and for you, you may want to experiment with the levels. The idea here is that you truly are able to relax in the shape that you're in. So, especially with an invigorating type of relaxation, it may take a little fine tuning. But once you find that place, then give yourself to it. Is that where you are? Would you like a blanket over you? No need? Okay. So if where you are feels a little chilly, then maybe a blanket, or maybe just a blanket just to give you that sense of like soothing cocoon going in. But typically for a kapha, it's a good idea to have a little wind blowing on them. Yeah. So the blanket would be not necessary. And so here you just keep letting go those layers of resistance, letting them go, so that there's more freedom to move, to be, to kayak, to pedalboard, to swim. Again, if you have the luxury of another 20 minutes or so, give yourself that. It's a good place to be in.